Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and today I want to talk about the Ark Invest Big Ideas 2021 report that came out today. This is something that I'm going to utilize to talk about my potential stock picks. I'm only going to be using this as a means by which I can explain some of the stocks that I am personally looking at. If you would like to view this same report, because I'm not going to go through the full product, you can find it online at arkinvest.com. And this is something that, again, is sponsored by Kathy Wood. She is running the Ark Invest team, and they had a phenomenal 2020. They blew out a lot of the other hedge funds, or rather mutual funds and indices, by leaps and bounds. They absolutely dominated the marketplace, and that's why you're seeing not millions, but rather billions of dollars pouring into their funds at the beginning of this calendar year. They are well known for identifying future potential innovation and going actively after some of those markets. They've got some stocks in here that they actively talk about, but some of the ones I'm going to are more so talking about the big ideas, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, of what the report is discussing. So right now what we'll do is talk about some of the different ideas that are included in this report. The items that I want to talk about today are going to include some of the deep learning and virtual worlds piece. The reason for that is because, again, one of my long-term holds is inclusive in some of those stocks. The other thing that we'll talk about today is some of the electric vehicles, because I think that that is a huge factor here. And then I also want to talk about some of the orbital aerospace 3D printing. Again, a lot of what we see in here is representative of stocks that we have actively looked at on this channel previously, and why I'm going to continue to reiterate my buy sequence associated with them. So first and foremost, we're going to dive into some of this deep learning. So what we're going to be talking about right here is this idea of AI, artificial intelligence, that's going to continuously adapt and provide additional feedback loops on how we can better learn, as well as how our software can better learn so that it's able to repeat tasks on a continuous basis. So what we're going to be looking at is right here on the screen, where we're discussing not necessarily the code that was written by humans, but what we expect to go forward. Again, the key thing that I want to focus on here is what are the software leaders that have the capability to provide some of this information. And there are two stocks in particular that are discussed here that I really want to talk about. First, again, this is kind of some of the stuff where AI is being utilized. The one thing that I want to talk about, though, is the AI chip market. So right now you can see just some of the information along the left-hand side here of what people are actually looking at for these AI chips. The big companies that I want to talk about is going to be TSM, which is one that we have been talking about for a year at this point, and again will continue to dominate the market. The other company I want to talk about is going to be Nvidia. The reason for that is, as you can see from the billions that this market is going to entail, they are primed to take advantage of that particular point. So what I want to be looking at is, again, the reinvention of the data center, which is going to comply with what we were just discussing. What you can see right here is this idea that ARM, or ARM, which is one of the largest companies in the... So I really want to be talking about ARM. The reason why I want to talk about ARM is because they are actively a target for Nvidia. They are going through those conversations today. I think there's going to be troubles associated with that coming from the regulatory side of China. However, during Nvidia's last acquisition with Mellanox, they went through the same type of process and took right at a year to close. I anticipate that we'll hear some more of that when Nvidia announces earnings in 2 weeks. The big thing that I want to look at, though, is the fact that they are actively going through this process of trying to dominate this space. And as you can see, that the attempt here, and granted, forecasting 10 years out is no easy feat, and not one that I would like to rely upon with any key focus or applicability. But this is just showcasing that, again, Nvidia and TSM are who I want to be dominating. Again, what we want to look at here is who is producing the capabilities of the future. And right now, I think that that's going to be ARM, which is going to be owned by Nvidia, and TSM, who's going to be dominating that streak. AMD is included in this list. And today, when they announced earnings, they further showcased the fact that they are absolutely dominating Intel. So I really like this. Again, I am all in on TSM, and I am heavily involved in purchasing and holding Nvidia shares as well. So a lot of these companies I think are going to continue to dominate. We're going to, again, continue to invest in winners and speculate on everyone else. And in this world, Nvidia, AMD, and TSM are winners. The ones I'm personally going after include TSM and Nvidia. So let's continue onwards a little bit down below into the virtual world. So again, one of the things that we're talking about right now is the fact that people are going to continue to go into the gaming world. When we're discussing gaming and who we're going after, I personally, again, will continue to look at Nvidia because they continue to supply PC gamers worldwide and their chips continue to be in very high demand. One of the companies that are not included here, but one that we think are going to continue to blast off include Netease. This is a company that just hit $130 a share. They've kind of pulled back off of that in a healthy way, in my opinion, and that's one that we started coverage on at $88 a share. So I'm continuously looking at companies like that because, again, these forecasts continue to showcase what I think is going to be a huge bull case for some of the companies that we are currently invested in and believe are going to continue to dominate. Just want to highlight AR, again, huge Nvidia plug, virtual reality, Nvidia plug. So this is something that, again, you see a lot of growth associated with it. I won't go too much farther into it. So I'm not going to be looking at the digital wallets. Again, I'll allow everyone to go out and read the report. And again, same with the Bitcoin bull case. I personally am not huge into the cryptocurrencies just due to the regulatory burdens. Admittedly, there are benefits to it. If I were to stay in that space, I'd really look at either. But next, we're going to talk about electrical vehicles. This is something that we are heavily discussing right now. It's not necessarily just the EV side, and you can see talking about the battery cost, which Tesla in particular has continued to dominate. But really, what are we going to be looking at here? So right now, over the course of time, they're saying that EVs could be lower than the average price of a Toyota Camry going forward. What I am looking at is not necessarily a EV from a Tesla in this space, although I'm sure that that's going to happen. But I'd really like to see a player like Ford or GM who have said that they anticipate entering this space to essentially see what they're capable of doing and producing. And you can see over on the right hand side from a range and acceleration perspective, you see Tesla vehicles, but also you even see that Mustang Mach-E. And I'm interested to see going forward, are we going to see, again, is Ford going to continue to enter this space? Because right now we're not seeing that. Again, some of that is battery technology. This is only going to get better going forward. I'm interested to see some of this type of information performed at the Tesla earnings this week. So the big thing that we want to see is you see this huge gap coming from the 2020 to 2025 time period. And it talks about this idea of traditional automakers. I think that this slide is missing out on the fact that, again, we've got companies like Ford, BMW, GM, who I think if they enter the space, yes, Tesla has the first mover advantage, but there's a huge market out there for vehicles, and Tesla can't necessarily keep up with the demand they have now. And if some of these vehicle makers like a Ford, who has the capability to turn that on a dime, then I think there's a huge market available for them. I think they've even discussed they could, in 2022, they could sell over 200,000 electric F-150s, and those come at a high dollar margin. So again, this is something I'm going to be watching going forward. I'm going to skip over automation because this is an industry that I haven't really been following very well as autonomous ride hailing. Again, these are things that are very important, drone delivery as well, but stuff that I actively haven't covered, and I want to talk to you guys from a position that I think is important, and I actually feel like I have done some due diligence over. One of those companies inclusive here is Orbital Aerospace. It talks about the space industry. This is one of the reasons why they're going to be creating a space-based fund that's going to be Ark K, and that's something that they're going to be building in the future, and it's something that we've already covered on the channel, and we will watch that accordingly. So this is one that we're going to be watching in particular close because, again, one of our holdings is Gilt, which is it's a ARK fund already in the Israeli fund, and what we're going to be looking at is satellite communications. Again, we're currently looking at enabling the entirety of internet connectivity for the entire world, and satellites are going to be able to essentially utilize that. The items that I want to look at here are we going to get more satellites up there that's going to have lower latency? And it looks like that's the capabilities that are being discussed here in this section. So to the extent that I believe that we'll be able to essentially have these satellites in orbit that are going to provide a meaningful ROI, some of these first movers like a Gilt have a lot of long-term capabilities. And for a lot of these companies through here, I'll throw those cards here in the video so that you have the capability to see that information and see when I called out these companies months ago, because I am still bullish on these companies and I see a lot going forward. So just looking at the overall capability is we're talking about a $10 billion annual addressable market. That's annual, so not the total market, but I think that this is something that some of these early adopters have the capability of dominating. You can see right here that they believe that this is a $100 billion annual opportunity. So that's one of the things I'm going to look at. Last but not least, the one item that I want to talk about here, one company we've been looking at pretty actively is DDD. Again, 3D company or 3D printing company that has the capability to make a lot of stuff that I think will do well going forward. So this is just, again, a lot of opportunity, a lot going on right now. And this is an excellent report. I highly encourage everyone to read it because there is a lot of cool stuff going on in this space. Just to showcase some of the items that are going forward, again, feel free to check out this report. Again, is long read sequencing. Last time we made a video about this is when we were discussing PacBio when it was under $15 a share. And again, I'll link that video here below. But this is something that we're talking about, is the fact that they have the capability to go a lot more in depth and a lot more into specific genomes that I think are going to fundamentally change the scientific community going forward, especially with the fact that, again, people are looking to actively monetize the capabilities here because it opens up so many doors in terms of some of the different mutations associated with individual genes, as well as how we can actively target, hey, where did you come from and where are you going type of scenarios. So this is something that, again, we're expecting to see a lot of. I'm not going to follow Wright's law right here, look at that. But something that I think we're going to see the capabilities from a monetary perspective are exactly here on the screen, where we're looking at a lot of diseases, a lot of cancers, and a lot of, it says structural variations, but what I'm looking at is the diseases in particular. But the capabilities of these companies to go in and actively address some of these needs that have meaningful and material impacts on entire populations, I think is a huge deal, and one that is going to be able to monetize itself very well. So this is just some of the items. Again, 5-year market, 2025, they're saying a $5 billion market, and that's really split between a few winners like PacBio and Illumina. So that's what we're going to be looking at associated with it. The last thing in this section, and we've got multi-cancer screening. I'm by no means an expert, not familiar with this field. Feel free to check out the report and you can see that. And then again, cell and gene therapy as well in a similar space. So this is the report. Again, you can do more research by looking at arkinvest.com. I was a big fan of this report. There is a lot of great information available here, and I would highly recommend you go and check it out. So thanks for watching. I appreciate your time today, and if you found this content helpful, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks everyone. Talk to you later.